Howdy, I'm Ma Crow. I'm an eclectic musician here in Cincinnati. Moved up here in 1988 to play with David Gilligan and his band. He named it in my honor, but it was really his band, so the Flock. And my parents are Tennesseans, and they moved up here to get out of the coal mines. And I was born here in Cincinnati in General Hospital, which is UC now, but back then it was General Hospital. Lived in Walnut Hills, and I consider myself part of the Queen City.
Can you tell me a little bit about growing up in Cincinnati and the kind of music that you were exposed to and how you got exposed to music?
Well, I lived here until I was 8 years old, and my parents moved to Florida. My father was in construction at that point, and he couldn't tolerate the winters, so we moved back to. We left here and moved to Florida for a while, but we did get back to Tennessee when I was 12. We moved back there when I was 12 years old. But before that, while we were here in Cincinnati, every summer my mother would send me and my two older brothers to Scott County, Tennessee to stay at our aunts. They stayed with Aunt Sally. I stayed with Aunt Sally. They stayed with Aunt Blanche on the farms all summer, and they would come and get us at the end of the summer to bring us back up here to go to school, and we would cry all the way across Kentucky to get back here because the farm was the center of the universe. But in Tennessee, you could hear people singing in the churches, on the school buses, on the top of the mountains. It was just a cultural experience to be raised in Appalachia and be part of that. My father, when they met, my mother and father met, they were both working at Oak Ridge where they were building the bomb. My father had his own bluegrass band. In hindsight, I don't know what the name of it was. And I should have been asking more questions when I was younger because nobody is here now to ask. But my mother was the designated driver at the end of the evening. And when I come home from school in the evening times, sometimes my mom and dad he'd get the guitar out and they would sing some songs for us, and they had perfect harmony. I'd always listen to them. I had a cousin, Gwendolyn, who was blind, and she had the voice of an angel. Go to church and just fill that church full of music. It was I couldn't do anything but absorb all of that.
So when did you get reconnected to Cincinnati?
I lived in Madison, Indiana. I married a man who was into construction, and we would travel around like gypsies. We'd finish a job. He worked in building coolant towers for power plants, and they sent him to work in Marble Hill, which was going up just west of Hanover, Indiana. And when I moved back at the age of 29 to the Ohio Valley, that's where I met people on both sides of the river from Louisville to Cincinnati that played music, and there was picking parties all the time where people had just gotten gathered around. And I met a lady her name was Cindy Mann, and they would have ladies' luncheons in Madison, and I took my guitar there. And when Cindy walked into the living room and she saw my guitar, she said, "Whose is that?" And we became singing partners. She introduced me to Fiddle and Joy one evening, and Fiddle and Joy would always put on these shows. And this was the first time I ever played on stage. Ma Crow and the Indian Creek Outlaws, Fiddle and Joy put that together for me, and that was a springboard. I've never stopped, and that was February 1980. Carroll County accident down there in Carroll County, Kentucky, Carrollton.
Can you tell us a little bit about the name Ma Crow?
I took that when I was with child. I have two sons. My second boy, both of my sons were born in Tennessee. First one in Nashville, and the second one in Follett. And when I was with child with Nathan, I would write short stories and dress kind of like a hippie back then, and I would see my reflection in the storefronts. And I looked like Mother Goose, but that name was taken, so I took Mother Crow as a pen name because I would write short stories and journal entries and little notes, and always sign them Ma Crow. And it stuck. I mean, I've tried to get rid of it and it won't go.
Why Ma Crow? Was there a source or a reason why that?
It just came to me. I think it came to me from the walls of time. Years later, I was given information about Cherokee ancestry, and in indigenous culture, there was a crow hop, which was a relay race. And I found out that I had an ancestor after taking this name of Mother Crow. I had an ancestor, Hopping Crow, and I always thought, well, they said that person was an athlete. And a crow hop is a relay race. And so I just figured I thought it was a person. The person would be a male, but it turned out that Hopping Crow was a female. And I just believe in all stuff like that. Things happen to you through the walls of time.
Were those Native American roots from Tennessee?
Tennessee, yes.
From that same
yes.
part of eastern Tennessee
yes.
that your people were from?
Yes. Yeah, some of my ancestors were sent away on the Trail of Tears. And I didn't find out about this until the 1990s. And it changed my life when I did find out. And I know where my mother's great-grandmother, which was 8 years old when the removal started, and she somehow fell off the trail and came back to Tennessee. And I know where she's buried in Scott County, Tennessee. I know where her grave is. Martha Mathis was her name. No, Martha was her mother, so her name was Prudy Mathis. It just made sense to me.
So you were playing guitar and singing. I mean, how old were you when you got serious about like doing this as a regular thing, like being professional?
Well,
where were you at in your life at that point?
Well, I tried to teach myself how to play at 12. My father tried to show me some stuff. 12 years old, the fingers wasn't quite long enough. So fast forward 12 years, I was 24 when I borrowed a guitar. I got books, the Mel Bay books my mother and father had laying around the house, and started teaching myself how to make the chords at 24. I was 29 when I moved back into the Ohio Valley and met Fiddle and Joy and all these people that just was here waiting for me to come in. So at 29, I was so shy about it though. I couldn't stand the thought of somebody looking at me while I was trying to play. So sometimes I would just turn around so nobody. And I bet it was 15 years before my knees stopped shaking every time I stepped on stage. At least 15 years.
So what were some of the venues? What were some of the places that you played at when you started out? When you were, starting to do it on a regular thing as like.
It was here in Cincinnati.
But what were some of the venues? What were some of the places?
Well, Arnold's was a big one. I bet we played there once a month for 10 years. I think the first place that we did play was in Mount Lookout. It's still there. It's the Lookout Cafe or something. That was the very first one.
And when you were starting to play and sing when you were in your 20s and stuff, I mean, what was the music that you were playing that you were trying to learn how to play?
Would be the popular stuff like Crosby, Stills, Nash and Young, and people like that. Anything that I could hear on the radio, of course. And then there was always those old country songs that my mother and father sang. He was in a country band, so George Jones and Tammy and all of them.
When did you start diving into some of the old-timey kind of songbooks? When did you just start discovering that stuff? I know some of that was probably around growing up, but when did you try to start playing that stuff?
When there was always an element of that. I know that when I still lived in Madison, my husband Kelly brought home something that was recorded at Apple Shop down in Whitesburg, Kentucky. It was Bledsoe and Kirby, and it was on vinyl because that was way before CDs even or cassettes. Cassettes wasn't even here yet. So, and And I recently found that album, and it was full of all these old mountain tunes. And I learned at least 4 or 5 of them on there. L and N Don't Stop Here Anymore, and Thy Burdens Are Greater Than Mine, and just a lot of neat old stuff. And a couple of years ago, I was at the Appalachian Studies Conference, and Apple Shop was there, and they had these old vinyl records, and that record was there, and I bought that and brought that home. I'm going to put it on the wall because I would still ask Kelly about who wrote what song and blah, blah, blah when I was recording. And he told me that once he left Madison and he moved down to Henderson, Kentucky, and put all of his stuff in storage, and it got destroyed by flood one year. So all of his, and he had such a collection that he just brought it home to me. All sorts of music. It was good.
So you start playing around the Cincinnati or in different places. When did you connect with the members of the Flock, or what's the origin story of Ma Crow and the Flock?
I met a lady who knew David Gilligan and them, and she was telling me that she was playing music with these people, and I kind of like barged in on it and kind of twisted her arm and let me go up there too. And she introduced me to David Gilligan. It wasn't the Flock at that point. I joined their band, and I still lived in Madison, Indiana, and I'd come up here to practice, and we'd play up here. The first, I'm going to say the first show we really did, not the one in Mount Lookout, was the Leo Coffee House. And at that point, Colin I forget what his first name was Colin. He audio taped that, and they had a program where they would live at the Leo was on WNKU, and of course I didn't know if it sounded decent or not, and I kind of felt bad all the way back to Madison that night. But when I heard that on the radio, it's like, hey, that sounds pretty good. We're gonna keep this up. So. Yeah, the Leo Coffee House, which I'll be there with the Bluegrass Band. Will be there December 1st.
A lot of people played there.
Oh, yeah.
John Denver did a show back there in
That's what I hear,
69.
yeah.
It's a big bootleg.
Yeah.
So when did you move to Cincinnati? When did you make this as your home base?
1988. Came up here. I had $130 in my pocket, handful of people that I knew. I didn't have a work history. I didn't have an education. So I got busy. In 1988, enrolled at WNKU to get a bachelor's degree in social work, and played in as many bands as I could. Kept some kind of a part-time job to bring in some money, because folk rhymes with broke. And I haven't quit. And I remember when I was turned 40 and I was still living in Covington, and we're booked over here at Arnold's, and I'd pack up my guitar and I'd come across a suspension bridge and I'd look in the mirror and I'd say, nobody wants to see a 40-year-old woman playing guitar and singing. And God Almighty, that's been 30 years ago. So, and people still call, and I'm so grateful. It has enriched my life. I've met so many good people in the music biz, and it's given me a sense of community. I feel like I've made a home for myself here. When I arrived with barely nothing, I didn't have a place to live, but I came here to play music.
And so you've played in other places beyond Cincinnati.
Yeah.
Can you talk about, you played in different festivals and stuff? Did the Flock do that, or was that later post-Flock?
The Flock was local. I don't recall us doing anything except here in Ohio and Kentucky. Now the Lady Slippers was regional. We played Illinois, Indiana, West Virginia, North Carolina, Tennessee, Kentucky, and Ohio. Yeah, there's and then Michigan, a festival in Michigan I went to. But when COVID happened, I don't travel as much anymore. But I don't know how it happened. I mean, I've never been on a record label or had an agent. People just, I got all I had to do was just sit and wait. It would come. It came to me. I'm a lucky person.
I wanted to get to about recordings. Did you do your first recordings with Ma Crow and the Flock? Was that the first recordings that you
Yes.
did?
Yeah.
So where did you guys did your first album?
We used group effort up here in Crescent Springs. Is that one? Group effort in Northern Kentucky. The first CD and the first release that I did with the Flock, Ma Crow and the Flock, was Hard Times on the Farm. Now it came out on a cassette. Somebody did this for me later, many years later, but this is what it looked like on a little cassette. We had it. We released it. And we was gonna go to Bobby Mackey's and try to push it and stuff like that. And 2 weeks later, CDs came out. So that kind of put all those cassettes went in the closet. So, and the second one that we did was Dinner at Arnold's, and we did have our release party at Dinner at Arnold's. That's me. I love Arnold's. It's a wonderful place to go. And the third CD was November, and that won a Cincinnati Grammy Award in 1999. They are different than the CEA Awards because they was put on by the Cincinnati Inquiry, and it was Larry Nager's project. They had a panel of judges, and you had to have a recording, unlike, I don't know, the CEA Awards, but was real proud about that. Me and David fought over who's going to take this home. There. I was working on the fourth CD, which was a recovering Catholic, when I decided I just had to get back to acoustic music. We started out being acoustic. People would leave and they would replace them with electric guitars, electric bass, drums. Just nothing wrong with that. I loved it. I wanted to play acoustic bluegrass music.
So when you kind of moved on from the Flock, what did you want to do? What were you just doing solo shows, or did you connect up with different musicians doing more acoustic stuff, or what was going on? This is what we're talking about, the early 2000s.
Yes, I was definitely an identity crisis, because if I'm not playing music, who am I? And I did form several different bands together. The first one was, we called it the Ma Crow Medicine Show, and that was with Andy King was my singing partner in that one. From there, I think, and I don't really know who came next and stuff like that. The Motherpluckers was an all-girl band. Katie Laur and her All-Girl Bluegrass Band, I was part of that. That was a 5-piece bluegrass band. After that came the Lady Slippers, which was all female. And I recorded several things. Well, I was working on the fourth CD when that came to an end, and that never got published. So
Smoky Junction.
Smoky Junction was
that was just under your name.
Yes, it was.
But was that going to be a different kind of project?
It was a solo thing, and we would ask different people to come in and play on here. I have Trina Emig and Natalie Cunningham, Laura Hassick, Sylvia Mitchell from our symphony, Jim Huey, Andy King, Brad Meinerding, who's stellar. He went on to play with Over the Rhine, Margie Dries, Vicki Abbott, who helped me put on Ma Crow and the Lady Slippers, and Megan Coyle was a fiddler, and I think she's moved to Seattle. I don't think she's here anymore, but she's fantastic. So all those folks were on here, featured on here. We went to Scott County, Tennessee to take all the pictures. And it's a tribute to me growing up down in Tennessee.
Where was that album recorded at?
Boopy Studios, West Side. It's just somebody's bedroom.
So. Were those? Was that album recorded live, or did you do?
No, we would bring people in. It was not live. And that right there is a picture of that little shack that when I was 12 years old, this was Granny's three-room shack that we moved into. Had no plumbing. I lived there for several years before we moved into a place that did have running water, and that's why I take 2 showers a day, because I love my water. So that preceded the Lady Slippers. The first one, Lady Slippers, was this one, Wayward Daughter. That's what you have on the staircase Wayward Daughter. That was our first one.
So how did the Lady Slippers form? What was the story of? Obviously you knew all those guys.
Well,
how did you guys decide to be an actual group to record an album and all that?
We met up at a picking party on the east side one evening, and I don't know, it just gelled that how you pick up on those things when you know it's going to work, and it was magic. We went through the honeymoon phase. We accomplished a lot of stuff with this little girl band, and Wayward Daughter was. We had there's fantastic photographs in here. Murray Joy took all the photographs. Our second one was Memory of a Mountain, where Margie wrote that song as Memory of a Mountain. And she wrote it for me because there was so much strip mining going on down in Tennessee that like David Gilligan was a songwriter. He would write songs. I was just song fodder for all his songs. My Sucky Love Life was song fodder, but he would write some songs about back down home where Margie would also. And then our third one was Black Wings. It's a wonderful thing. Margie wrote several things on here. Margie passed away in January 23. Black Wings, it's Ida Bales here. And this was Mark Utley. Mark Utley did the artwork. Mark Utley did... He was the
Mountain.
Yeah.
And you worked on a project that he put together.
Yes, I did.
About mountains.
Yeah, and they were music for the mountains. Trina and I were on this one, the first one, and then the Lady Slippers were on this one. And Margie wrote Memory of a Mountain for this project.
Can you explain the project? What it was?
The project was to stop mountaintop removal. And all of these are different. There's a song for different people on, I think there's like 24 different people on this one. And it looks to me like I can't even count how many is on this one. But this was a group effort of people coming together to try to stop mountaintop removal. It's hard. And that song, Memory of a Mountain, the Lady Slippers were invited to Michael Jonathan's Wood Songs. I think it was 20, was it? I've got it written down here. It was 2013. I was on my bed reading Bluegrass Unlimited, and the phone rings and said, if you can be here at 4 o'clock, you can be on Wood Songs old time radio show. And that was a miracle, getting girls together, heading down to Lexington to do that. But we hadn't even put out the Memory of a Mountain CD yet. We only had the Wayward Daughter, and we were able to sing that song, Memory of a Mountain, on Michael Jonathan's Wood Songs. It was I don't know, just all you have to do is wait for the phone to ring.
Now, I mean, I don't know, all the history of bluegrass or old-timey, whatever you want to folk, but an all-women's group doing that kind of music, there's not a lot of them.
No, there's not.
Lady Slippers.
No, there's not. There was a couple of books that were written about. Well, Murphy Henry put this book out, Pretty Good for a Girl. And I know a lot of people, like Katie Laur, our beloved Katie Laur, has her own chapter in here. Memphis Beck Gentry has, and I knew her, she lived over there by Madison, and she's got her own chapter in here. And there's a chapter of female bands. So we have a little blurb in here about being a female band. Pretty Good for a Girl, Murphy Henry. Y'all get that. I'm sure you can find it in the libraries.
Oh, we have it.
And Memphis Beck is also in this book. And she was one of the first women to front a bluegrass band out of Louisville. I know Memphis. I just saw her last month. Her and I went to see Larry Nager up there in Columbus. But I don't know. I'm honored that we were included. I never aspired to be the one. I just wanted to be part of it.
And how did you guys go around? Some of the songs were written by band members, and some were other songs that were like, maybe some of them were not by the band. But how did you pick the songs that you wanted to record and perform for Lady Slippers?
For the Lady Slippers, I let Trina Emig choose most of the songs. And I mean, they're all good. How can you choose? They're all like children. Which one's your favorite? I don't know. There's not enough time to get them all recorded. There was no process. It's whatever we were able to do best.
And those were all recorded at one of your...
in the bedroom. The Lady Slippers. We did not go to a studio for that. The Flock went into a studio. The Lady Slippers was kind of like a homemade basement type thing. But I imagine a lot of people record at home. It seems to me like this wasn't in a studio. This was somebody's house up in Walnut Hills. Plow on Boy. They asked me to do some harmony with Nikki Burg. I love Nikki. She left here and went to WYSO, and was there for a long time. Roger Yeardly put one out, and it seems to me like we was in a basement to do that one, somebody's basement in Bond Hill. And I do have, he had me sing one song on that. The Golden Fields of American Folk Music. This was Harold Kennedy put this one out, and I think it was in the same place that Roger Yeardley put his out. This was Kelly Thomas had a bunch of people come in and to do a gospel thing. It was the Hayseed Tabernacle Choir. And we had our CD release party down in Rabbit Hash, Kentucky. But there's a lot of different people on this one.
Didn't you also do some stuff with Muse here in town?
Yes.
Can you talk about working with Muse?
Yes, I've worked twice with Muse. Once in 2005, Muse asked Katie Laur to come. That's how her All-Girl Bluegrass Band came together in 2005, that the Muse featured Katie Laur, and I weaseled my way into that one. And in 2015, Muse asked the Lady Slippers back, and the choir sang Memory of a Mountain, Margie's, and they did such a beautiful job. It was just perfect. I think we did 3 concerts with them, one in Northern Kentucky, one out in Madisonville, and one in Price Hill. It was just a wonderful experience. I was so honored, and it made Margie walk on clouds that they featured her son, that the choir sang Memory of a Mountain.
So when Lady Slippers you guys put out your own albums, I guess, right? Mm-hmm. How did that work at that time? This is like 10 years ago. I mean, I think people were starting to do that. I mean, did you guys have to raise your own money? I mean, how did you guys pull it all together?
Well, with the Flock, we pooled the money that we would make playing music, and we bought 20 hours of recordings, and that was only $750 back then at the group effort, and that was a for real recording studio. With the Lady Slippers, Trina was the benefactor. She, I don't know, Miss Moneybags or something. She was the benefactor for all, and it takes a lot of money to put out a CD. I understand that. Now Dale Farmer wants to put out a CD too, and he's trying to. I don't know what his plan is. Beg, borrow, steal. I'm not sure, but he wants to go to Virginia to work with some people there next year, 2025.
Well, I'm glad you brought him up because he's somebody I wanted to talk about. That's somebody you're collaborating currently. But as I understand it, Dale is a videographer, filmmaker, mm-hmm. and he made a movie that you played a character in that movie. Can you talk a little about the movie and what you were doing in the movie?
The Mountain Miner. It's about the migration, the Appalachian migration, and And it's based on his grandparents who left Jackson County, Kentucky, and came to the Northern Factory. I think they came into Fairfield, maybe, I'm not sure, but they all came up here to, just like my family left Appalachia to come to the Northern Factory towns to get work. So this is Charlie Abner, and the movie jumps between the 1930s and the 1980s, back and forth. Well, it starts at the Southgate. The first scene is at the Southgate house, and the Tillers are playing. And Mike Oberst and the Tillers would be Charlie's great-grandson. So it starts like in 2018, but then it flips back to the 30s, and it flips into the 80s, and goes back and forth and back and forth. And he hired all the local musicians to be the characters because it was all about the culture and the music. The fiddle, that fiddle came through the Cumberland Gap. 6 generations played that fiddle. So you'll hear a theme song, a theme tune, and 5 or 6 different people playing the same tune on this fiddle.
I believe Mike from the Tillers was involved in the soundtrack.
Yes.
Some of the music.
Yeah, and it's there's a soundtrack to it too, field recordings. So this is young Charlie and old Charlie. Old Charlie's Dan Gellert. He's a wonderful old-time musician out of Dayton. These kids came. The kids, Charlie and Ruth, came out of North Carolina. They're the young Charlie and Ruth, and Dan Gellert and I are the old Charlie and Ruth.
Can you talk about who your character is?
Ruth Abner, which would be based on his grandmother.
Can you talk about a little bit about Ruth, who she is?
Well, I always was under when he said that she played guitar and stuff. Well, he called me up and asked me if I would consider playing his grandmother in a movie. And for the year, I just thought, well, Grandma must be subservient and shy and everything until they filmed the trailer, and I got to see what the little girl, Ruth, was just, she was bold. And she was like a lot of women I knew in Appalachia, that she was not subservient at all. And she's more like a guitar slinger for her time. And she played music, and so when I come into the movie, it's like the 1980s, living up here in Ohio. And Charlie wants to move back to the mountains. Ruth does not. Ruth grew up here, and she wanted to stay. So I tried my best to do her well in the movie. In reality, his grandparents did not move back to the mountains, where my parents did move back to the mountains. And I never saw my mother more happy than to be back in the hills.
Yeah, I was wondering if you had relatives or people that you had in mind when you were playing that role.
Well, I understood the role because that's not only his story, it's thousands of people's story. So many people left Appalachia to come up here to find work. They did. There's an old saying that they were on their way to Detroit, and how they got to Dayton was the car broke down in Dayton, and that's where they stayed. So, and then I've heard the stories about how people on the weekends would head back to stay the weekend in Kentucky, and we would go, not every weekend, but as soon as we saw this, as children, as soon as we saw this one barn, when you turned off Highway 63 and go down Norma Road to where my granny lived, we'd all see the barn there on the highway, and we'd all start screaming, "We're in Tennessee," where we've been in Tennessee for hours. Didn't know. So.
Did you find it daunting to be in a film?
Oh, I am not an actress. None of us were. I think he might have hired one actor to play a preacher's part in the church scene. So I was like, God, I hope I didn't ruin your movie. But it was, again, an honor and a blessing to be part of it. Didn't have to be the one, just part of it.
And now you're in a band with Dale. Were you already in a band with him when the movie was made, or were you approached with the movie? How did your relationship start with Dale Farmer?
I met he was playing in a band called the Back Porch Hounds, and they were playing at the Leo Coffee House. And I knew Dennis Henderson, that was lead singer in that band, and it was at a party in Indiana, and hadn't seen him in 30 years. And he walked up to me and he said, "You don't remember me, do you?" And of course, we've changed in 30 years, and I didn't know who it was until he told me. And he told me that his band would be playing at Eden Park for the summer song thing that the Leo Coffee House puts on. So I met Dale there, and that had to have been in 2013 maybe. I might know him for about 10 years now. So I wasn't playing with Dale when he asked me to be in the movie. This happened just a couple of years ago when I was asked to open for Emmy Sunshine at the Ludlow Garage. And I am not a solo artist. And if you want to come to see a bad show, just come see me as a solo artist. So I asked Dale to go with me, and he decided we ought to just continue this. And I think that was in 21. It was right after COVID. Emmy Sunshine is when the Lady Slippers was on WDBX down in Knoxville way back. Some of the audience was telling me, "Do you know who Emmy Sunshine is? She's this little kid that stands on the corners in Knoxville and sings to high heaven." And then I opened for her, and 10 years later, and she's barely out of her teens, I imagine. Now I've got shoes older than Emmy Sunshine. So, The Farmer and the Crow. Oops, here it is. The Farmer and the Crow. That's me. That's Dale looking like Kevin Costner.
But you also have another band. You
Oh,
have
yes.
Dale and the Farmer, and then you have another band. Can you talk about that band?
Mall Crow and Company. This is after the Lady Slippers. We had there's only 3 of us left. It was four girls, and one of them left. So I took the name Mall Crow and Company, and that way I didn't have to rely on trying to find another Lady Slipper. Men don't. I mean, I did have a few men that were interested, but that didn't last long. And that's Steve Johnson, John Venemeyer, Mike Thompson, Vicki Abbott. Vicki Abbott's been playing with me since 2011. She was in the Lady Slippers, and that's we'll be at the Leo Coffee House on the 1st of December this year. A lot of traditional bluegrass. I mean, they're bluegrass people, but John Venemeyer, the fiddler, is fantastic. He can improvise. He plays anything you want him to. He doesn't even have to practice. My kind of guy.
So those are your 2 main projects you got going on right now. Do you have future plans, any recordings or anything like that you want to do in the future?
Yes, I think both Dale, the Farmer, and the Crow have plans to go to Virginia to be in a for real studio somewhere in Virginia. I don't know. I just I have guitar. We'll travel. All I do is get in the van and go with them. So. And then the Mall Crow Company will probably do some kind of a project at John Venemeyer's home to get something out there. I think if it's not on a CD or some kind of recording, it doesn't exist. That's Margie Dries always said that if it's not recorded, it does not exist.
Doing a recording process, do you feel like that has changed, like promoting music, marketing yourself? How do you? Since your beginnings till now, how is that? Have you seen that evolved or change?
It's welcome to the internet, welcome to the cyberspace, because I don't know, I can't even give away a CD. People don't buy them anymore. I'm from the era where you had LPs and CDs where you could see who plays what and who's on first and stuff like that. And I don't know. If people download that, do they get that information? I don't think so. Do they? See, I live in a no-tech zone. I don't have a smartphone or a computer. I mean, I don't text. I want to hear your voice. You call me. I want to speak to you. And I'm so glad that you called, because a lot of people wouldn't.
What kind of music are you listening to? Do you listen to old music, or are you trying to listen to new artists, or how involved are you with trying to, like, how do you continue to explore music?
I tune into PBS, and you'll find a lot of music on PBS. I just saw some the Americana things on KET last night, and you always have Michael Jonathan on there with everybody from the big name entertainment to the unknown on his program out of Lexington, and music the one from Marion, Virginia, is on PBS, and Tim White has a program that he's got all sorts of people. I saw Martha Spencer on. She's been on there numerous times. I'm a big fan of Martha Spencer. And Dale has house concerts where he brings in people to perform at his home. He lives up close to Eaton, Kentucky, or Eaton, Ohio.
Is there anybody like in this region, a player or singer or somebody that you're excited, somebody coming up that you're kind of like that you're like excited about?
I don't know. I encourage anybody. I want to support anybody who is up and coming. Just stick with it. It doesn't matter if you're making money or if you're not making money. Just play music. It makes the world a better place. It really does. Music is medicine, and my motto is to music. My mission. Margie always wanted to have a mission statement, and the only thing I could come up with was my mission to play music is to bring peace to this earth, and I know it does. I know it does. It builds bridges, and it heals people. But, yeah.
Gosh,
It feels like a
I
hug
think that's a good
moment
way
now.
to end it. That's great.
Keep on playing, whoever you are. I mean, Arnold's brings in local talents all the time. Go support your local musicians. Go out there and throw a buck in the tip jar and just encourage anybody who wants to play music, and have them start early too. That Michael Jonathan has Woodsong's Kids on there, and I am amazed at some of the talent those children bring in. That's just great.
Well, I guess I want to just talk a little bit more about women in bluegrass. I mean, there's a little bit in that book, like Industrial Strength Bluegrass, and in the book that you have, but do you feel like there's more women than when you were starting out, or what do you observe as far as women?
It's pretty well saturated now. Yeah, when Katie was coming up, that was not the case. I guess that's why it's so important that Miss Henry wrote that book to show people how long women have been here, and it was a male dominated thing, and I don't think so anymore. There's plenty enough women out there, and they're great. They're just great.
I mean, particularly you go back to the Carter family.
Yeah,
you know?
yeah. Well, we do a lot of Carter family songs. I still do things that were written in the 1800s. Doc Boggs we cover some of his stuff, and Carter family. They were born in the 1800s. There's a lot of good musicians, like I said, still anywhere between Cincinnati and Louisville on both sides. North here, I mean, it's everywhere. I think we do a good job representing our music, and I go to other states, and they have great musicians there. I'm going to attend a party in Indianapolis day after Thanksgiving, and the house is full, from Mikey Cleveland on down to the unknowns. You go into North Carolina, they're the best musicians ever. They don't got to go to Nashville. They got their thing going in North Carolina. Nashville's a hub. People move there every day. You can get car loans by just saying that you're a musician. They'll give you money to float the boat. So,
why do you think there's young people who are all into like getting into bluegrass and stuff like that? What do you think that kind of music, the folk music, what is it? Do you think the appeal? What do you think captures people's who are passionate about it?
I think it like classical music, it soothes the soul. You absorb it a whole lot. It touches me. I imagine that it's just some kind of magic that happens with a 5-piece bluegrass band. and them working together to make the music just stellar. I've never heard such. I love Celtic music. That's the most beautiful music I've ever heard in the world. I could live a better life when I play music, Celtic music. Yeah. Let's talk about the CEA Awards. I don't know if they still have these awards anymore or not. I don't know. Do you know? Okay.
I haven't done it since the pandemic, at least.
Cincinnati Entertainment Awards nominee. I've been nominated. 1997, Moss Crow and the Flock. 2001, 2003, 2004, Ma Crow by herself. 2006, with Katie Laur and her All-Girl Bluegrass Band. 2007, the Motherpluckers. 2011 and 2013, Ma Crow and the Lady Slippers. And I think on the 2013, they had us perform. But how many is that? 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. 8 times I was beginning to feel like Susan Lucci. But I'm proud of anybody who does win the awards. Keep on going at it. I think in 2004, I took David Gilligan with me, and we performed. It was at St. George.
I mean, you got kind of a name. So when you got a name, what do?
Wait for the phone to ring.
You get your personalized license plate.
Oh, bless your heart. Thank you. It's official. Does this look like a mugshot?
A little bit. Can you tell us a little story about the license plate?
Well, I bought a couple of new cars in my life, and this one was I moved from Covington over here, and when I moved over here, I lived in Walnut Hills. I decided to put this shameless self-promotion on my car. And I got a lot of honks going down the highway. So, but it cost a lot of money to keep that on there. And then I had to move back to Kentucky because I got gentrified. And the place that I love so well, I'd been there 19 years. And they didn't raise the rent twice as much, but 3 times as much, and wanted you to pay to park in the back of the house. So it's a big adventure. And I cried for the first day, but then the second day I started packing. So get her done.
Well, you mentioned you had kids. Are they into music at all?
No. No, and I think that sometimes they were embarrassed about it, but my youngest one, Nathan, did try to play saxophone when he was in grade school, and the thing was about as big as him, and we lived up on a hill, and he got tired trying to drag that thing up the hill after he got off the school bus, so that didn't last long. And he did recently say he wished he could play piano, and I said, go for it. Have your little boy teach you, because his little boy's taking lessons. Let Connor show you what he's learned. It's better late than never,
Music keeps you young.
Oh, yeah. You can see, if that camera isn't too close, you can see that I feel young when I play music. It's hard to get to the booking, but once I get there and tuned up, I know that that's where I'm supposed to be, and I know that that's what I'm supposed to be doing. I love our Queen City. I love the people I play with, and I love the people I play for, and I love the Ohio River. And thank you for having me.